Nightblog is brought to you by Toast. Regular bread, recooked again for you. Just made a little extra crispy. You put whatever you want on it. You can put butter, margarine, peanut butter, different sorts of jams and jellies, or avocado. Why?
You know what? That's like the Chinese buffet. It's reheated.
It's twice cooked bread.
And you can put anything on top of it. More chicken, oranges.
Chinese buffets make me so nervous, man.
Old sushi.
It is Russian roulette, especially if you decide to go for the sushi. You are playing intestinal Russian roulette.
And you know what I do every time, just because I'm like, you know what? If this is what takes me, it's what I want to go down doing.
Listen, man, having intestinal problems is not as great as it sounds.
Who said it sounds great?
Well, see, that's the way I'm going to go. I'm glad.
Liar! Oh, I just meant the sushi part.
Oh, the sushi, okay. Yeah. This is what takes me out. It was a good run.
So guess what's coming out? Can you guess? Can you guess what movie is going to be the next cinematic adventure?
Grease 3?
Unfortunately, yes. No, Zuko's done. Zuko's retired. Zuko's crazy.
I can't believe they made a 2, to be honest.
Dude, all I remember, and
I've never seen it. I just like, there was a sequel to this?
All I remember from 2 is there was a part with a motorcycle that jumped insanely high, like comically high. And that's all I recall. So me knowing that, I've never gone back because I'm like, there's no build-up in a Grease 2 that could get me to the point of I believe this is happening.
Have you seen, somebody took Grease Lightning, that sequence, and took the music out.
Okay.
It is hilarious.
Like, is it voices or just the sounds?
It's the voices are in it.
Okay.
But there's no music, and they're like all like purposely kind of off key a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Like cleaning the car and stuff.
It's just so funny.
Yeah.
You just see them jumping, click, clack, Grease Lightning, and then like it's just.
I love those music videos where they just strip away the music and just make it super awkward are my favorite.
Or there's the Star Wars throne room scene with no music.
I haven't seen that one.
It's the end of Star Wars A New Hope. Strip the music. They just have like this trumpet go ba, 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 and then it's them walking down and you just hear Chewie, it's not Chewie growling. Every time they cut to a shot of Chewie growling, it's guy going, ah! It's so funny. And then they have like the sound effects of like just the lip sounds of smiling. Like it's just R2 doesn't even beep. Look it up.
I will.
It's so good.
Do you know the song, the Little John song, "Turned Down for What"?
Yes.
So there's a music video of that with the music taken away, and in that there's like people that dance crazy and do really ridiculous things with their body. So it's just them going around going like, yeah, and then they're just screaming and falling through the floor and it's so awkward and I love it. Okay, so Grease 3's not what I was talking about.
No, or sound effects.
Let's go ahead and reel that back in. Infinity War. What happened?
You're centering us.
That was amazing. Oh, really? Sorry, I got excited.
Did I move the camera by mistake?
Did you?
That's like way off.
Yeah,
now.
so now I'll just move over here.
Or I could just move the camera.
No, this is good.
Okay. So what we're really going to be talking about is Infinity War is coming out.
Yeah. Oh, thanks.
But I wanted to talk about, because I've also finally got to see Justice League recently.
All right.
And I also finally sat down and watched the 3-hour-long version, the ultimate cut of Batman vs. Superman. And I wanted to talk about the DCEU versus the MCU, because I've been thinking about it a lot lately.
But just as a contrast, not as an actual...
Not as a which one's better.
Exactly.
And actually, the conclusion I'm coming up with, like, if you were to come up with which one's better, I would still say MCU, but it's not because, like, DCEU is poorly written. Some of it is. Like, but... We'll get to it.
I'm not an apologist for the DCU.
Yeah.
I enjoy it immensely because of a topic we were just talking about when we were talking about this topic is the DCU is a very good contrast.
Yeah, it's a contrast.
to what Marvel does. And Marvel is kind of like, and you had said, the happy-go-lucky side of superheroism. And DC is kind of like that really dark humanistic side.
Marvel Cinematic Universe are human cartoons.
Yes.
Very bright colors, very exuberant, clever, funny. That's their shtick. That's their thing. And it's great. And
they are just representations of their own comics.
Yeah. And the DCEU, I've noticed, like, okay, this is definitely more serious tone, more somber tone, and that's fine. There's times like, okay, come on, let's bring some levity to this, guys.
Yeah.
You're going too far. Like, in the end, it's still comics. Like, there's got to be a little hint, like, we know everything about this is ridiculous.
Right. Well, what's funny is, like, the DC comics, even in, like, when they did the New 52 and then the reboot again, they got super dark. So even the DC comics, like, kind of went along with that whole feeling of, we understand that these people come from really dark places. It's like they're still going to do really cool stuff and their enemies are still going to be crazy people and it's all colorful and wacky. But it's like, just so you know, we're all on board to this really dark, like storm-laden souls of these people that happen to be saving other people.
Yeah.
So sorry, continue. You were talking about the comics.
I know. I was about to say, like, and I'm speaking from someone who doesn't really read the comics. I'm coming in, I guess I would say, like, I'm a superficial fan. Or not superficial fan.
Yeah, I wouldn't
just,
call that
like,
superficial.
I never got into comics. I don't have anything against comics. I mean, I did make sure to read, like, I read The Watchmen before Watchmen came out.
Okay.
I just kind of wanted to know, what is this thing? And I totally get it, and I actually did really enjoy it.
Me too.
And the movie I thought was trippy. I actually caught my dad one time watching that movie on, like, I don't know.
Was it the Hang and Wang version?
It was the extended version.
Hey.
Hang and Wang. I thought all over the Hang and Wang version.
Well, there was a version on TV where there was underpants.
Oh, for the television, they like superimpose underpants on? Yeah. That's hilarious.
I remember like watching once and being like, I like it better with underwear.
Please tell me they just like photoshopped whitey tighties.
I really, I can't recall exactly what it looked like, but I hope it was just like Hanes.
It's sponsored by this. Watchmen is brought to you by Hanes.
Welcome to Night Blog. Brought to you by Hanes.
No, I caught my dad watching. Like, I came home from something like a college group, and he's just, nobody told him. He's like, I found this on your DVD shelf, and I found that interesting. I'm like, why are you watching that?
Yeah.
That is not a you movie. Like that's. Are you gonna finish it?
See, like I love 300, and I love that, and I love Batman vs Superman.
Yeah.
And I love Man of Steel. So it's like, really anything he makes, I'm on board with.
I did not really care for Sucker Punch.
I love Sucker Punch too.
I was like, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Super interesting. And I'm also really sold into most movies or games that go like super anime with their premise, but are still like pretty darn Hollywood in the way they do things. Like I love that fusion. And it doesn't happen a lot. Like Pacific Rim was super anime, but at the same time it was super Hollywood, Yeah. But that one also had, some really cool kind of Eastern techniques and stuff, and a lot of it happened in like an Asian country, when they moved into the big city and stuff. So I'm going on a tangent. I'm sorry.
But anyway,
bring it back.
DCEU. So I finally sat down and I watched, because when I first saw Batman vs Superman, because I didn't get to see it in theaters because I was in the hospital.
Right.
When that came out.
You just had to listen to me gush over it.
I had to listen to you gush about it, and then everybody else not like it.
Yeah. Just me.
Except for Greg Miller, he loved it. And
Greg Miller did love it. Yeah.
And so I'm like, I still none of the criticism deterred me. Like, I want to see this movie. And so finally, when it came out, I remember on digital release, because we were still living with my parents, saving up for the house. My mom bought. I'm like, all right, let's watch this. So we watched it. I'm like, it's not bad. I don't know what happened though, and I don't know why. And it wasn't until recently I sat down. I'm like, I'm gonna watch the extended edition. I'm going to watch the Ultimate Edition. And I go, oh, this makes so much more sense. And poor Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah, but it fleshes everything out a little better.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, this makes more sense. But there's still one thing I didn't care for. And that was the decision to make Lex Luthor the way that he was. I thought Jesse Eisenberg did a fantastic job. And so I don't know what part of it that I'm like trying to critique. It was, because it's like, okay, he's supposed to be this... He's of this intelligence that's so much higher than anyone else. But he's also this kind of like crazed person that, he always speaks in these overlong platitudes to show his intelligence. I'm like, I know he's supposed to be that kind of villain. I don't know if it's working though, and I don't know why it's not working for me. Well, I get it. And I don't know if it's because it's Jesse Eisenberg. I don't know if it's because, could it be written better to be that type of, like, I guess, pagan min, but more intelligent type villain that, like, can just go on this weird... Because I felt like every single speech of his, every line was a speech. And it annoyed me. Like, dude, it doesn't have to be a speech.
Yeah.
Not every line. I'm not mad at Chase Anderson. I'm mad at the writer. I'm like, dude, you're ruining the good speeches with the lousy speeches. Because every single line was this speech.
Yeah.
I'm like, just stop.
Well, counterpoint is because he's so intelligent, he set up only moments where he had enough time to get his entire point across. He never had a moment where he didn't have the exact setup where he could say exactly what he wanted to, because that was his power move, was words.
Well,
because, hold on. Now, the other thing is he is also once removed from the Lex Luthor we think of, because he is the son of Lex Luthor. He is not the Lex Luthor. Like, when you see the Lex on the billboard, he even says it in the movie.
It's my dad.
It's my dad. So this is a different Lex Luthor than we're used to.
Well, I mean, I know it's a different Lex Luthor than we're used to. Kind of like it's a different Superman than we're used to.
Yeah, but no,
like,
well,
not
it's
in
still
the
the
fact
same
that
Clark Kent in his case.
Okay, so he's not the Lex Luthor.
Correct.
I did not realize that. Still don't like.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter if it's like the Lex Luthor, the son of Lex Luthor, which just sounds like a cheesy movie.
Yeah.
Just like, as a writer, I'm thinking you overused it. Tone him down a little bit, so that way the points where he does get that super intelligent, like, I'm smarter than you, and kind of off of my own world, like, monologuing, it means something.
Yeah.
When every line feels like a monologue that he's prepared, it's like somebody who screamed all the time. What happens to somebody who? What do you do with somebody who screams all the time? You don't listen to them.
Yeah.
You don't pay any attention to screamers.
That's like another anime trope. There are a lot of characters who are always either at like a 10,
Yeah.
or they're at like a 0, or they're always giving speeches. You know, I think that's just another way of like exaggerating a character where he was also constantly making metaphors for spiritual or faith-based or theological things, you know, because he wanted to be a god, naturally. But he often referenced to God in different small little biblical tidbits, you know, just
and
single
then flipping
one-liners.
the painting around, which, like, okay, that's cool they talk like that.
I like
painting
that,
should be upside
yeah.
down when they arrest him. He flipped it.
And I love the red capes are coming. And I love how he used that with her, you know, the different things they said about, like, the peach tea and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
I really liked him. And I liked all the interactions he had with everybody.
Yeah, I guess I'm like, I liked him, but at the same time, like,
Was he too
off.
comical?
No, not comical. It wasn't comical. It's just like there's something undercutting, and it's because it's always his shtick was always there, so therefore it undercut the powerful moments it could have had.
Okay.
And as I'm looking at the DCU, I'm thinking, okay, I still like MCU better, but why is it that I like MCU better than DCEU? Because it's not a writing problem, it's not a character problem, it's not a tone, maybe a little bit of a tone problem. Because I think as I'm looking at how the DC has been trying to portray some other characters, especially Aquaman, like they fixed Aquaman's portrayal in the general public eye. Because when we think of Aquaman, we think of the blonde hair with the orange and the cartoonish thing, and then they're like, all right, we're going to hire Jason Momoa, tat him up, tell him to get even bigger than he already is, scraggly beard, long hair, and just make him look awesome.
Well, it's funny because in Smallville they tried to make like a cool Aquaman.
He didn't look
and it
cool in
completely
Smallville.
failed.
I remember seeing that. That
didn't-
was my least favorite episode.
Yeah, it was no good. But I say my problem tonally with the DC is now they tried to be too Marvel with Justice League.
I can tell it's two different movies.
Yeah, well, I wish that Joss Whedon hadn't touched this, and that's a weird thing for me to say. I love Joss Whedon's stuff, but now slowly there's like a subreddit of the community of the DCEU. Like everyone's been going through and trying to find every original version that Zack Snyder had out there with his color palette and the different way he had cut things together with using the music that Junkie XL and Hans Zimmer had done.
Yeah,
and so they tried to grab all of those and they put them together in things from Comic-Con that they didn't put in the movie, and then these extended scenes, the deleted scenes where they still had Henry Cavill without the nasty lip, you know?
I laughed so hard when he first.
It's so funny. He's so creepy. But then you watch those of that put together, and it's this immense detraction from what you just saw with everything in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And then you see something like Spider-Man: Homecoming, which was phenomenal. But I'd still rather watch something dark and brooding like Batman vs Superman. But that's just me. You know, I like the DC, you know, that way.
Well, I guess what I'm looking at and thinking, okay, what should they have done to make these more impactful? And once again, I'm looking at Marvel, not in tone, but in time and patience that they had. I'm thinking they rushed to Justice League, and they rushed to Batman versus Superman. because Batman vs Superman is the second movie. Third if you count. Wait, did it come after Suicide Squad or came before?
It came before.
It came before. So it's a second movie.
Yeah.
The second DCEU movie. And they kill off Superman in it. That gives us a movie to get attached to that character.
Yeah.
A movie. And then in the next one, they bring him back to life.
Yeah. Which I know you don't read the comics, but everybody knew.
Oh, you knew, like, okay.
That he doesn't stay gone.
Yeah, because it's Justice League. Like, you can't have Justice League without Superman. So I know when I watched him die, I'm like, oh, they did that? Oh. Well, he's coming back to life because. And it just undercuts the power of his death.
But what a good scene.
It was a good scene.
Oh my
Great
gosh.
Scene.
Every time I watch it,
But because it's so young, they undercut the power of that. And then they, rush to get to Justice League. And when I look back, how did Marvel do the Avengers? Well, they started with Iron Man in 2008, and they spent 4 years slowly building to Avengers. And even now with Infinity War, they teased Infinity War 6 years ago.
Throughout the entire series of the MCU,
but
Infinity War's been teased since the first stone came around.
Yeah.
The space.
But especially, because once again, I don't read the comics, at the end of the Avengers, I'm looking at the post-credit sequence, and then Thanos turns around, he smiles, and I'm like, who's that? Because I don't know.
Yeah.
So I had to look up, who is this dude? Like, Thanos.
Josh Brolin purple.
Yeah, Josh Brolin wasn't cast yet.
Oh, you mean just back when it was just the straight up...
It was just straight up, to fight them is to court death. And he turns and kind of, if you're a fan, you know it's Thanos. If you're like, who's that?
Yeah.
It's a guy.
Right.
And then... And we were expecting, okay, next Avengers, it's Infinity War. Nope.
Right.
It's Age of Ultron. And they spent another 6 years building to this moment. And I'm looking at what DC did, and I feel like they're rushing to get to this big climactic moments, and they're not putting the time in.
Well, see, I think...
I think they need to put the time in for us to care about these characters.
Here's why I disagree. I think the Justice League was a great... Just like Batman vs. Superman, I think Batman vs. Superman was a great intro to these characters, being like, here's a tidbit of this, and a tidbit of this, and a tidbit of this. Here's what they look like together. They're still kind of shoddy. They're not really a great group yet. It's like now they're going to go out and do their own movies, and you'll kind of see, except for Man of Steel. Obviously, we already had a Superman movie, so him dying honestly wasn't that crazy. He had already kind of saved the world twice at this point. So then they move on to Justice League, and they're like, look at all these other characters that they've assembled that they knew about this whole time, and they're kind of building them opposite Amanda Waller, who created the entire problem when she brought together the Suicide Squad, and was like, hey, I made a problem, but luckily I made this people to fix that problem, which the problem is me.
Yeah.
So Justice League introduces all these other guys, and then they do a minor character like Steppenwolf. So it's still a big build-up to something else that's going to come that could be Darkseid and Doomsday, some crazy stuff that just has an apocalypse, but...
I guess I'm saying, I don't need a Flash movie, a Cyborg movie, an Aquaman movie to lead to Justice League. I guess I'm just thinking, instead of doing Suicide Squad, maybe they should have done the Aquaman movie. Maybe they should have done the Flash. Like, Cyborg, I think, needs to be introduced in the context of someone else, just because I don't know him as well. Or maybe, Cyborg and Aquaman needed to be introduced in Justice League for us to get used to what that vision is. But I'm just thinking, all right, I just need more time to know these characters before you're going for these big, heartbreaking moments. Like Superman dying in the second movie. You should have moved that to a moment where it'd feel heavier. Because you haven't even done a Justice League movie yet, and therefore... there's no mystery if Superman's going to come back or not. And there's no weight to his sacrifice, because he's got to come back for Justice League, because you can't have Justice League without Superman.
Right.
Especially, we've been clamoring for a Justice League movie for years, and if you do it without bringing back Superman, you're going to tick off a lot of fans.
Yeah.
So I knew, they're not that dumb. He's going to come back.
But then they actually bring him back in a super creative way where he is not only not himself.
He's mad.
But then they have to work to fight Superman. It's and that scene was... amazing.
It's a cool scene. I'm not denying the coolness of those scenes.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. I'm just look at this from somebody who goes and knows kind of what makes for the best weighted moments emotionally in narratives. And
worked for me.
It worked for me, but I know it could have been better if they really let you get attached to these characters, and there was a weight to his sacrifice that you don't know, is he going to come back in the next Justice League? Or is he gone in the next Justice League? And you know what I mean? There's no weight to it. There's no weight to it. Or there could have been more weight to it.
Yeah, no, I feel like there's plenty of weight to it, but it just depends on how you look at it, where Man of Steel was a long movie, and Batman vs. Superman was a long movie. So if you cut that down into some Marvel chunks, you have almost 3 movies of build up to what was his ultimate sacrifice. And, you know, the way that it went down with him and Lois just begging him not to go. And he knows after talking to his mom and everything, who is even like, you don't owe them anything. You are who you are because of who your father like taught you to be, but you don't have to be any of those things. And it all culminates into this big moment where he, in the end of Man of Steel, had to take a life, which wrecked him.
Yeah.
It destroyed him. And in this, he had to give his own life to save everyone else. Oh my gosh, it was the ultimate like superhero moment.
Yeah.
But we all knew that he wasn't gone for long. We just knew that that moment was, according to everyone around him, like Lois, that's where the pain came from.
Yeah.
Was understanding the character, not me, but seeing the pain of like his mother and Lois and everybody at the Daily Planet, where they were just like, oh, this sweet little Clark Kent, like he died just in the rubble of Superman killing things, and then everyone knowing that Superman is dead, being like, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
Like, we don't have anyone now. And then Steppenwolf's coming. It's like, we're screwed. And then you know that all they have to do is get all of the cubes together and resurrect Superman. Like, that's the whole point of the movie. Then you realize that screwed you even more.
Yeah.
It's like, now we've got a really interesting premise on our hands to introduce all these superheroes because they're not the Justice League yet. Even throughout the entire movie, they're not the Justice League until the very end when he gets out that table. That's the first glimpse of, like, the actual Justice League that we see. The rest of the time, it's a ragtag group of people just hopefully saving the world, you know? But really, I mean, if they had gone against anyone more powerful than Steppenwolf, it would have been unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely unbelievable. So I'm really glad they did kind of a low-level baddie to take on as the, you know, I wish it would have been someone more, like, human. But, you know, the CG is the way to go, I guess. It was more foreboding and scary, so...
I mean, I'm not undercutting the emotional weight of the movie itself. I guess I'm just looking at, all right, there's a patience that the guys at Marvel have, and like, all right, we're really gonna build and build and build and build that has a bigger payoff. Like, for example, spoilers for the end of Captain America Civil War, there's not a good resolution at the end of that. It leaves the entire universe fractured.
Yeah.
And the entire team fractured. And it's kind of like, well, they did that at the end of Batman vs. Superman, the second movie. And it has more weight when there's more history. For me as a viewer, because keep in mind, you and I also kind of have a little bit more history with these characters. You more so than me, having been fans of the comics and whatnot. So as a casual viewer, I'm kind of speaking as a casual viewer here who doesn't have that same knowledge and understanding with the characters. Like, it would have so much more weight with general audiences if they had more time to sit with these characters in a movie and a half or 2 movies. Anyway, we're going long on this one.
Yeah.
I still really like DCEU. I'm happy it exists, and I hope they just kind of like, all right, now that we have the Justice League together, let's slow our roll.
Right.
And just slowly build into...
Well, and it's funny to me, like, in the Marvel universe, like, I thought Civil War is a good movie, like, action-wise. I thought the payoff with the actual villain was kind of lame, but I will watch Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2 every day of my life.
I like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Like, in its own world of just that. Like, I feel like there is so much more emotional weight in those 2 movies than the rest of, however slow or fast they did everything in the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I will take those 2 movies any day.
Yeah.
And I feel so much of that group of people than for anyone else. As much as I love Cap and everything, you know, with Bucky and all that, like, it's very good. But, man, you get me at the end with Yondu and stuff in the second Guardians, and I'm like, oh, heavens.
Oh, man.
It gets my heart.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
Tell us what you think after the super long episode of Nightblog.
You like, you subscribe.
I like Star Wars.
We would like to